I had this conversation the other day with a Christian friend of mine. We somehow got on the topic of depression and anxiety, and she said, I don't understand how people go through things like that. I mean, the Bible's very clear. Philippians 4:8. The Bible tells us to think about things that are lovely and true and honorable and admirable and excellent and praiseworthy. And so, if we just commit to thinking about those things, how do we suffer from depression and anxiety? I don't get it. And I started rereading my Bible just the other day, and 6 chapters into Genesis, I'm confronted with the fall of mankind, the story of Cain and Abel, where Abel's offering to God was more pleasing to God, and Cain got jealous and then murdered Abel as a result. And we get the corruption of man, the wickedness of man, and then the flood and all that, God's regret of making man. And I'm triggered, right? I'm like, it just reminds me of how God calls us sinful and wicked, even in the womb, and how he hates us because of those things. Christians believe that the path to positive thinking is about meditating on and rehearsing God's word, especially the verses on love, peace, and hope and joy. And I know those verses are in the Bible, I've read them all too. But for the obsessive, melancholic mind like mine, that's been born out of severe adverse childhood experiences and trauma, the Bible tends to reinforce a negative self image and things like depression and anxiety. It doesn't help us with those things. I like to say you can't use the problem to fix the problem. That only exacerbates the problem. So for me, reading the Bible was never an exercise in building my self esteem, but rather lowering my self esteem and then causing things like depression, anxiety, and shame and guilt and fear and stuff like that. So I'd love to hear your experience. If you want to unpack this a little bit more, head on over to my 10 video series on religious trauma. I got links down below here. And you want to learn more about that obsessive melancholic mind that I talked about, it's in there. We talk about what religious trauma is, how it forms, and whom it's most likely to form, what to do if you're suffering from it, and not coming from a Christian perspective, by the way. And so I'd love to hear from you, even if you disagree with me. Tell me about your experience with religious trauma, and let's have a conversation that, in my view, is long overdue.